Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Marissa Kunch. I am an energy efficiency specialist with the City and County of Honolulu's Office of Climate Change, Sustainability, and Resiliency. On the call today, we have Sophia Sommers with Hawaii Energy. We also have Charlotte Aitken. She is with the Energy Star Portfolio Manager team. Sophia today will be talking about Hawaii Energy rebates and some kind of next steps to benchmarking once you've completed benchmarking. And then Charlotte will be kindly going through a Portfolio Manager 101 training for us. So she'll be getting some tips and tricks too as you go in, create your profile, and complete your benchmarking report. So today on the agenda, we'll be going over some background information on the Better Buildings Benchmarking Program. We'll be going over who needs to comply and when. Then we'll be jumping into some program specifics for the Better Buildings Benchmarking Program, how to get your data, what's needed to complete the benchmarking report. Then we'll be jumping into the Portfolio Manager 101 training. And once we've finished that, we'll be going over some next steps. So you've benchmarked, what happens after that. So just to start off, super big picture, who is the Office of Climate Change, Sustainability, and Resiliency? In addition to helping implement the BBB program, we are one of the newer city agencies established in 2017 as a charter mandated office to respond to and address climate change and sustainability challenges. We are tasked with tracking climate change science and potential impacts on city facilities, coordinating actions and policies of departments within the city to increase community preparedness, developing resilient infrastructure in response to the effects of climate change, and integrating sustainable and environmental values into city plans, programs, and policies. We are a super busy team, but a small team. There's about 20 staff members in the office. We have an energy team that focuses on climate action. So all actions that help to reduce greenhouse gas emissions on Oahu. And we also have a climate adaptation team, and they focus on strategies and actions that we need to take to prepare and protect our island from climate change impacts. So this would be climate impacts like sea level rise, increasing storms, warmer weather. So if you are interested in checking out more of what our office does outside of building benchmarking, you can find us online at resilientoahu.org. So all of the actions and strategies I mentioned from our team are outlined in these guiding documents. We have a climate action plan, a resilience strategy, and most recently we've published Climate Ready Oahu, which is the city's first adaptation strategy. Sophia was actually a huge part of getting that up and published, so small shout out to Sophia there. And each year we do publish an annual sustainability report. This helps to track and report on all of the actions that are outlined in these other plans on the screen. So I've pulled out some of the actions that are in our CAP and resilience strategy. Both are calling for a citywide commercial benchmarking program, as well as an action requiring all city-owned buildings to report and benchmark. So the city first knew that we needed to lead by example and benchmark our own buildings before implementing a program island-wide. So you can actually find current and publicly reported city building data in our annual sustainability report as well. So it says city buildings, including like Honolulu Hale, police departments, fire departments, some other city office buildings. So that is published annually in our ASR. So these actions and strategies led to both of these ordinances. The first one, the municipal ordinance, Ordinance 2047. This one passed and called for the City and County of Honolulu to start benchmarking all of their city-owned buildings. And then the citywide ordinance 2217 called for a commercial and multifamily benchmarking program, so requiring all buildings above 25,000 square feet to report their energy and water use every year. We have a nice little photo here of Mayor Blangiardi signing into law Ordinance 2217, surrounded by several stakeholders, including Hawaii Energy, Board of Water Supply, Hawaii Gas, and HECO. So what is benchmarking all about? First, benchmarking is the tracking and reporting of your whole building energy and water use over time. Our city program has 3 components. So first, we require you to gather your whole building data and input it into Portfolio Manager. Then a building is required to report it to the city. Ultimately, the data sharing helps the city to improve its programs and services to the islands. And then after reporting each year, we do make this data available publicly on our website via a map. So I'll speak to the map and the transparency side in a little bit. But these are kind of the 3 pillars of the Oahu Better Buildings Benchmarking Program. So the city and county of Honolulu is not the first city to require benchmarking. This map really highlights other cities and states who have been benchmarking for several years and even have further actions that are required outside of benchmarking. So some of the older benchmarking programs can be found in New York City as well as Washington, D.C. I believe some of those programs have been benchmarking since the early 2000s. Some newer programs, the Honolulu program was signed into ordinance in 2022. And then the city of Miami is also fairly new. So all of the ones in orange are benchmarking for commercial and multifamily buildings. That's us. And then everything in purple is benchmarking as well as additional actions on top of benchmarking. So additional actions could be a program might require an energy audit that's completed. They might require a third party to verify your benchmarking report. And then more recently, some cities and states have been requiring building performance standards. So like Colorado, for example, Miami as well is starting to require some of those performance standards. So from more mature benchmarking programs, these are some energy savings and some bill savings that we've started to see over time. City of Chicago, they've seen about 5.2% energy savings just between 2014 and 2018, equating to 15.1 million in bill savings. And then also San Francisco, an energy savings of 7.9% just in 4 years as well. So it's really the action of benchmarking that leads to encouraging buildings to take action on saving energy, upgrading LED lights, getting an energy audit to see where your energy spend is really going. So super excited to bring some of these bill savings and energy savings to Oahu. So our city program, when is everything due and who has to comply? So city buildings started reporting in the spring of 2022. Last year, we had our first deadline for commercial buildings that were over 100,000 square feet. This year, we have the first reporting deadline for buildings 50,000 square feet and above. And then next year will be kind of our last tier that we bring in, and that's for buildings 25,000 square feet and above. So this is an annual compliance standard. So every year by June 30th, buildings will be required to report their energy and water usage to the city. So getting a little bit into the data, what's needed for a portfolio manager, kind of big picture, where do you begin? So I've kind of summed up the steps in 8 little bullets here. First, you'll need your property name, address, and your total gross floor area. Charlotte will speak to the gross floor area a little bit more, some tips and tricks there, but I would say this is the biggest question I get from buildings is, where do I find my GFA? And the city has and publishes a building's real property square footage. And so this is, according to city records, what we have that's taxable square footage. Taxable square footage is for multifamily buildings specifically, it's only including in-unit square footage. So it's not including common spaces such as hallways, lobbies, internal stairwells. So we really discourage you to use that real property square footage that's published on the website. It's more for just seeing which buildings qualify for a reporting year. But we encourage a building to find building documentation, as-built drawings, rent rolls. Even recently, we found out that certain insurance documents might require a building's square footage. So several ways to get your GFA there. Oh, I see a hand up from Chester. Yeah, go for it. Oh, I think you're muted, Chester. If you also, you can put your question in the chat and I can answer it too if it's unable to unmute. Perfect. And,
Sorry,
oh, there we go.
So to the point about gross square footage, total gross floor area. I have 2 new buildings this year. Country Club Village, phase 1, which consists of 3 buildings. 2 of them are large enough to fall into the category. So the square footage you've given me, for instance, building 2, they're pretty much the same, but is 71,664 square feet. Well, when I add up what I have on my plans, it comes to 107,977 because these buildings have courtyards in that footprint that are actually exposed to the outside elements. Now, there is lighting in there. So is that really considered part of the energy footprint when we have exposed courtyards like that that are in the footprint of the total gross floor area per se? Because they, I mean, they have tile and everything like an indoor area would, but anyway.
Yeah, that's definitely a good question. For the purposes of benchmarking in Portfolio Manager, they designate specific gross floor area to internal spaces. So all of the space that's interior to the exterior facing walls. So even though your total electricity will be in that building and in that gross floor area, we're not going to be including that outdoor courtyard space.
But that doesn't apply to parking area because in the same buildings, the parking is underneath the building, which is,
Yeah.
for instance, building 3, it's completely exposed on all 4 sides. Building 2, it's partially subterranean, only because of the grading of the land, right? But it's really open.
Yeah, that's a good point. So there are actually 2 separate entries in Portfolio Manager. So you'll enter one for your building gross floor area, and then you'll enter one for your parking. So, and then it'll ask you specifics about your parking, like, is it totally enclosed, partially enclosed, or open? So you'll just, put in the square footage there as it applies.
Yeah, so I was familiar with that from last year, but it does not apply, just to make sure I'm on the same page, it does not apply to these open courtyard areas.
Correct.
As you were saying. Right. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Super good question though, because I think that's a common question and also a common mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So gross floor area, that's a big question that we always get, and Charlotte will have some tips later on in the training. So you'll also need your irrigated area. So that is exterior space. So that'll be anything that has like a water sprinkler system. You'll add an irrigated area to also a specific entry. You'll need the year your building was built, the average occupancy for the year. So maybe your building is like highly rentable throughout the year, and so occupancy is always changing. We're just looking for the average annual occupancy for your building here. Next, you'll need the number of buildings that are on your property. And then last but not least, maybe the most time consuming here is 12 consecutive months of energy and water data. And this reporting year will be for calendar year 2023. So that's all dates between January 1st and December 31st. If you have a water bill that ends on December 15th, you're still going to need one more water bill to make sure you're getting the end of December there, those missing 15 days. Chester, I saw the hand again.
Thank you. Back to the occupancy question. I think it's confusing when you're putting a new building in. It gives me the impression anyway that is the unit completed and at some point is it occupied? Meaning, is it a second home? Is it something? But you're really wanting to know what the average occupancy use of the building is, right?
It's really wanting to know, is there energy being used in this space or not? So if it's not occupied and nobody's in there, the lights are going to be off, the AC is going to be off. But if somebody is in there, then it's assumed that energy and water are being used in the unit. So I had this question from a condo building. He mentioned that probably it's only like 20% owner occupied. So lots of rentable space, and there will be seasons where owners go without renting a unit for a certain amount of time. So that would be taken into consideration as well for the annual occupancy. So the occupancy might actually change from year to year. Once you input the occupancy, it might be different from 2022 than it was in 2023.
Right. I see, because I'll be honest with you, the first year, last year, I was putting in, well, the building is completely 100% in occupied, not at all times, but all units are sold and occupied by owners. Doesn't mean they're there, but now to your point, we do keep data on actual occupancy for, you know, it's required data for condo sales, for insurance, for many other reasons, but so we
Yeah,
track that based on owners on-site or off-site addresses. So
and
I
I
was
would
getting
say,
I was getting kickback saying that some of my energy scores were high.
mm,
And I think maybe I was the guy that answered that question to you in an email that, oh, by the way, there's only about 20% of the people here at any given time. Yeah,
yeah. And I
this is
think
making
that's
sense.
kind of also a common theme we're seeing is like there are lots of very high Energy Star scores. Charlotte can talk more to what the Energy Star score means too in her training, but the Energy Star score is you're being compared to a national average. So this is not just buildings located on Oahu, but buildings that are located on the mainland that are using maybe way more natural gas. Um, they are completely different functioning buildings. They have heating systems.
Mhm.
So much, much different. And so I think that's one of the reasons that we're seeing a lot of high scores for us here.
Yeah,
You know, we definitely don't have heating. I think in older buildings, it's not super common to see central AC systems. You
no,
know, we're lucky to have a lot of the trade winds and cooler evening weather. So that's also a reason for higher scores too. But yeah, great point on the occupancy, and Charlotte can touch on that as well. Oops. Okay. Next, so as you're building out your profile in Energy Star Portfolio Manager, it's estimated that for first-time users, creating your profile, it takes between 2 to 3 hours. So this includes everything from gathering your building and consumption data to creating your account, adding information about your property, and then submitting your report to the city. So every year, you'll have to add your previous calendar year of energy and water data, but you won't have to recreate your account every year. So once you have your account, as long as you save your username and password, you'll be able to just easily log in every year to re-input that data. You have the option to enter in your monthly bills as they come in during the year, or you can wait right before June 30th to enter in your previous calendar year. Different styles of benchmarking. But once you've input all of your data, there are a few metrics that pop out at the end. You have an Energy Star score. So you receive a score between 1 and 100, 1 being a lower score, 100 being an almost perfect score. And then you also get an energy use intensity, which is the total energy use of your building divided by the square footage. So the higher your EUI, the more energy you're using per square foot, and then the lower is the less energy you're using per square foot. So kind of helpful metrics to see how your building is performing. Okay, getting a little bit more into the nitty-gritty of what's needed for your portfolio manager account. All buildings are assigned an Oahu building ID. This is a unique ID provided by the City and County of Honolulu. Each ID is for a single building. So as much as we can, we're trying to provide an ID for a single building to report their individual energy and water use. If you are a property that has 3 buildings on your property, chances are you have 3 IDs for those buildings. The goal would be that each of those single buildings can report how much single building energy they're using. But we do know that sometimes for several buildings, there might be central systems. It might be that you have only one electric account serving all 3 of the buildings. In this case, we would give you one building ID. We would just need you to contact us, let us know how your building is metered, and then we can kind of adjust that for you. But the goal of the program is for single buildings to report their whole building energy and water usage. So where can you find your Oahu building ID? We have a map as well as a list of IDs on our website. So you can go to the map, search by address to find your building ID. We also have a Google spreadsheet that has a list of IDs, so you could search by your building name. And once you find your building ID, this will be used in communication with utilities. You'll also need it to input into your Energy Star Portfolio Manager account. Without this ID, we can't track which building is yours. So it's super important that you remember to input your building ID into your Portfolio Manager account. Charlotte will kind of call out exactly where to input this into your account. And then your ID can also be used to communicate to the various utilities to obtain your utility data as well. Which leads me to my next few slides before passing it off to Charlotte. How do you get your whole building data from the gas company, electric company, and the water company? So when you're working with Hawaiian Electric to receive your electric data, again, it is required that whole building data is required. So this means, for example, condo buildings that maybe have over 50 electric meters. We don't expect you to go door knocking to obtain all 50 meters of data, but HECO is providing aggregated whole building data at a request. So all of the 50 meters of data would be pulled together, summed into a calendarized reading. So you would just have one reading for the whole building for a single month. We have a new process this year. Last year, we were providing that building data on a spreadsheet and a building uploaded it into their account. This year, we have a new, much easier process. It's called auto utility upload. So via a connection in Portfolio Manager, a building will receive their electricity data directly into their account. So we are working with HECO daily on this, trying to get it launched as soon as we can, but we estimate the process will only take between 10 and 15 minutes to get your electricity data uploaded into your account. This is a huge decrease in time from last year. I know the waiting time to get electricity data could have been several weeks. So we're super excited for this new process and hoping it'll alleviate a lot of the stress that was inquired from getting HECO data last year. But if you're not one of those buildings that is waiting on your whole building data, maybe you just have 1 or 2 electric meters, you can go to your electric bill, find your most recent 2023 billing dates and input those directly into your account. So if you do have any questions on your HECO bill, or if you want to find out more information on the auto upload process, Hawaiian Electric has a landing page for the benchmarking program, so you can find that here. And then you can contact them also for their at their BBB team. They are bbb@hawaiianelectric.com. All right, getting your gas data. You can either find your most recent Hawaii gas bills, or you can go online to your Hawaii gas account to get your gas data. If you are a building that has several gas meters, so if you're a retail space, maybe you have 8 or above restaurants, and you're having a hard time getting all 8 meters of gas data, Hawaii Gas is also providing whole building gas data. So you can contact Hawaii Gas at bbb@hawaiigas.com. They might go through a few authorization questions for the accounts, but you can make the request there through email. And they also have a landing page for FAQs on how to get your gas data online at the link here. Okay, and last but not least, Board of Water Supply. You can find your water data on your water bill. You can also find it online at boardofwatersupply.com/watersmart. You do have to create a WaterSmart account in order to access the data online. It is free to create, but it's super easy to download. It downloads into an Excel sheet, so you can just copy that data over to your portfolio manager account. And then if you have questions reading your Board of Water Supply bill, or if you have any questions on obtaining the data, you can go to their landing page here online or contact them at customerservice@hbws.org. Okay, and the last step before I pass it to Charlotte. Charlotte will go over this in more detail, but one of the last steps that I see buildings missing a lot of times is, they've created their account, they've uploaded all of their data, but they fail to send it to the city. So there is a reporting link on our website. It's highlighted right here. It's called the Data Request Link for 2024 Benchmarking Compliance. You just click the link on our website, takes you right back to Energy Star. You follow a couple of steps to generate your report. So you do have to select your property. The time frame is already pre-selected. So you're sending the calendar year 2023 data. You select your property to upload. You generate a response preview. Note, this is not the last step to send your report. You're about 50% there after you generate your response preview. Your report will populate here. You may or may not have errors that are found. If you do have errors, you can review those to correct them. If not, you'll go under Action and click Send Response. This will be the last page that you see before you send your response to the city. You'll e-sign the response by inputting your username and password, and then you'll send your data. So once you send your data, you'll receive a confirmation email from Energy Star letting you know you've responded to the data request and you've successfully sent your data to the city. So that is enough of Marissa talking. So I am so excited to pass it off to Charlotte. She's going to go through a demo of exactly how to use Portfolio Manager, and she'll add in some helpful tips and tricks. So Charlotte, with that, I will pass it over to you. Let me see.
Hey, Marissa, real quick, we had a question in the comments. Are those going to be addressed at the end of the presentation, or can we quickly address it before transferring to
Yeah,
Charlotte?
I can address them now. Let's see. Oh, sorry. Do you mind reading them really quick?
Oh, sure. Gail Kono asked, what if they have a building on a military base?
That's a great question. So the program is a city and county of Honolulu program. So exempt buildings are anything that is above the city and county's authority. So this would include state buildings as well as federal buildings. So this program is not for anyone that has federally owned buildings or state-owned buildings. Good question, though. And Charlotte, I'm going to... Okay, you should be able to share now, I believe.
Yeah, I think I can just deal the screen. All right. Hopefully you all can see my screen. Hi everyone, my name is Charlotte Aiken. I am with the Cadmus Group, which is an environmental consultancy, but we are the main support contractor for the EPA Energy Star program. So a lot of my work is focused on portfolio manager and all the different Energy Star resources. So today I will be going through Portfolio Manager 101, which takes a look at navigating Portfolio Manager, adding a new property, and entering use details. Looks like my slide got cut off a little bit, but we'll also look at how to add energy data and then how to kind of navigate the reporting tab, which I'll preview of. Yeah, and feel free to stop me at any point. I'm happy to answer questions along the way. All right, so today we will demonstrate the core functionality of Portfolio Manager, like I mentioned. You will learn all of the essential how-to information you need to get up and running with Portfolio Manager, so you can start tracking your building's energy, water, and waste and materials performance. So Portfolio Manager is often used as a management tool that is usually just a piece of a much broader strategic plan to reduce consumption and costs. But Portfolio Manager specifically is used to compare, measure, and track consumption over time, set baselines, goals, and targets, and generate metrics that reveal underperforming properties. Then, based on this whole building perspective, building managers can begin to make investment decisions about conservation and efficiency and track the impact of these strategies in Portfolio Manager after they're implemented. It's a free online secure tool. And there's lots of regularly updated trainings and lots of resources for you online, because I know it can seem a little daunting. So Portfolio Manager offers users more than 300 metrics to assess performance. Among them are energy consumption, water consumption, greenhouse gas emissions, and the 1 to 100 Energy Star score, which we will go into in more detail, but this is just a quick overview. So what do we mean by benchmarking? Benchmarking is the process of comparing use to gain valuable perspective about building performance. So Portfolio Manager offers several ways to compare energy, water, and waste. For all three, you can use Portfolio Manager to establish a baseline, and then the baseline comprises 12 complete calendar months of data and is a starting point against which to compare future consumption. So as the building is operated, we can compare newer data to the baseline period in order to understand how consumption and costs change over time. Let's see. So here's a quick overview of the Energy Star score. So it's one kind of simple number that ties in a lot of background information that's pretty digestible and understandable. But essentially, the Energy Star score compares your building to buildings of similar size, type, and it's even somewhat location-based. So it's a great way to kind of analyze how your building performs compared to similar buildings. And almost all, but not all buildings can receive an Energy Star score. This page is a quick snapshot of all of the different property types that are eligible. Eligibility is essentially just based on the available data that's out there, because a lot of data does have to go into the back end to determine kind of where your building falls. But these properties are all eligible for Energy Star scores, and you'll notice a couple have an asterisk, meaning that those are not eligible for Energy Star certification, which is a recognition for buildings that have a 75 and above Energy Star score. So now I think we'll discuss a little bit about multi-use properties, which I know is a common issue, a common flag, because sometimes it's not as simple as just saying my whole building is an office, and that would be very easy, but it's not always the case. It's not uncommon for a property to have multiple property types. And a multi-use property can still receive the Energy Star score and receive certification, but there are two conditions that apply. So the first being 75% of the property's gross floor area must be comprised of a property type that is eligible for a score. So one of the property types listed on the previous slide. And two, more than 50% of the gross floor area must be comprised of one eligible property type, excluding parking. So for example, building 1 on the slide depicts a property that is 60% office and 40% warehouse. This space is eligible for a score and certification because both property types are eligible for a score and because the office is more than 50% of the total gross floor area. In building 2, even though the office is more than 50% of the gross floor area, this building is ineligible for the score because it doesn't meet the 75% minimum requirement. In other words, 40% of the space is comprised of a laboratory, which is an ineligible property type. So to create an initial record in Portfolio Manager, I know we touched on this a little bit, so this will be a quick slide, but all you need really are the items listed under number 1 on the slide, the property's primary function, its name, address, and postal code, the year built, and the gross floor area. With those metrics, you can establish an initial account for the property, but more will go into it to really make the most out of the tool. So if you are interested in generating an Energy Star score or required, you will also need the property use details. So the details in Portfolio Manager are considered to be the main drivers of energy use in buildings. So like we were saying about occupancy earlier, entering the building details really gives Portfolio Manager an understanding of how this building is used. And these details do change slightly based on property type. So, you know, a hospital isn't going to be operated the same way as an office, and Portfolio Manager knows that. So there are prompted questions as you create a property that ask property detail information that will correspond with the property type. So lastly, you'll need consumption data for the resources you're interested in tracking. So to generate metrics, you'll need at least 12 months of data, which sometimes turns out to be 13 bills if they are mid-month. And this is because all metrics in Portfolio Manager are annualized. So it needs at least that much data to create different metrics like EUI and Energy Star score. So for energy and water, this information typically comes from utility bills, which I know we talked about before, about how you can gather that information. Yeah, and I guess if you're interested in reporting waste and materials, I know that's not a requirement, but that information can also come from a measurement of your like a dumpster on site or a measurement from the company that would typically pick that up. So that's kind of an optional voluntary metric if you'd like to report that as well. All right, so now we will begin just a quick demo of navigating Portfolio Manager, and then we'll move on from there. So to create an account, this is a login on the Energy Star website, which is pretty simple, fortunately, URL. So you'll go there and create a username and password and follow the prompts on the screen, which are pretty simple. Just ask for your name, an email address, I think maybe your company affiliation, and not much else. So it's pretty simple to create an account. And then once you're in Portfolio Manager, navigation is fortunately pretty intuitive. So it uses a tab structure that makes it easy to find your way around the tool. There are 4 tabs at the portfolio level and 7 tabs at the property level. So portfolio wide, you'll see there's My Portfolio, Sharing, Reporting, and Recognition. And then once you're within a property, there's the Summary tab, Details, Energy, Water, Waste Materials, Goals, and Design. So today we'll really focus in on the Summary, Details, and Energy tabs at the property level, as well as the Reporting tab at the portfolio level. So the portfolio level tabs are listed across the top of the screen. This is the My Portfolio page here, which loads with a list of all of your properties, a customizable chart on the left-hand side, a menu of useful items to manage your portfolio, and notifications. So these can be requests to connect with other users, notices that someone accepted a property that you shared, or a range of others. That is up here, the notifications page. There are also sometimes separate notifications from the Energy Star team, such as if a new metric is going to be added to the tool, or if there's any other updates. And then of course the help page is very useful. There's lots of FAQs and trainings there, so I highly recommend visiting the help page. So then this is the property level view once you select a property from the My Portfolio tab. So with each of these tabs, you can navigate between a summary of the property details, and then meter data. You can also set and track progress against specific performance goals on the Goals tab, and compare a building's current energy performance against its initial design. But clicking Portfolio Manager, the logo in the top left corner, will always take you back to that main My Portfolio page. All right, now we will discuss adding a property and entering use details. So to add a property, you'll click the Add a Property button in the top left-hand corner of the My Portfolio tab, which will then take you to an initial page asking for the property type, the number of buildings, and the construction status. So under property type, you'll see a drop-down of tons of different types. I'd suggest picking the one that is the overall type, the majority type, if you are in a multi-property type. So there is opportunity to add additional property types later on in the tool, but for this first step, I would choose the one that takes up the largest square footage of your building. Then you'll select the number of buildings that are part of your property. So in most cases, this will be one. In some cases, you'll select more than one if your property is part of a campus. And then finally, you'll select the construction status, which is also typically existing. Sometimes you can enter a design project if you'd like to kind of track usage from that very early stage. And then finally, you can create test properties to kind of play around with the tool, see what happens when you raise and lower usage values. But the test property feature is really just so that property doesn't get grouped under any reporting requirement. All right, so on the next page, after you answer those initial details, you will enter general information, including the property address, the size, the occupancy, the year built, any irrigated area. So there are a couple different ways of measuring gross floor area, but in Portfolio Manager, it is the total property floor area measured from the principal exterior surfaces of the building. So we discussed this a little bit before. There is also a link to gross floor area if you click on details on what to include. But yeah, we're looking for the interior square footage of the building. Irrigated area is not a required field. It is used in calculating the water score. But I say not required just because it is not asterisk here, so you can come back in and add that later. Let's see. So occupancy is, like we said before, the percentage of your property's gross floor area that is occupied and operational on average. So for example, if you have a 10-story office building that on average has 9 of its 10 floors fully leased and occupied, the occupancy would be 90%. So if there are people working in all floors or all areas of the building, then it would be 100% occupied. But there is only one occupancy rate for each property, so this should really be an average. This value is not used in calculating the Energy Star score. However, there are minimum occupancy requirements for Energy Star certification. And it's a great metric for you to have entered in your building, just so you can track that over time. So this page also has a section for standard IDs, which I know we discussed a little bit earlier. So this is where you will enter your building's standard ID using this dropdown. I would confirm that it's either going to be under city, town, or county district. But in the dropdown, you will see it listed, kind of the category that you're looking for. And then on the right-hand side, in this box, you'll enter in the ID number. Yeah, and then it will be recorded as recorded. So that's great. And then finally on this page, there are a couple more prompts about parking consumption, data centers, retail stores, restaurants or cafeterias. This is really just to get a better picture of your property and how it uses energy. So for all property types, there will be this question about parking areas. So if your parking areas are separately metered from the building, you do not need to check this box. However, it is very common that parking areas and buildings share a meter, especially if a parking area just has some lighting or it's beneath the building, like we were saying before. So if this is the case that they do share a meter, check this box. And on the next screen, Portfolio Manager will prompt you to enter some more information about parking, like we discussed earlier. All right. So next, you'll be asked to provide some more details about your primary property type. And like I said before, each has slightly different use details. But as you kind of hover over these blue property use details, there will be a definition in a pop-up box. And you can also click on them to take you to the Portfolio Manager glossary if you ever have questions about exactly what it's asking. But this page is where you will confirm your property's gross floor area. This GFA value, like I said, it should encompass the whole building, including any hallways, stairwells, lobbies, or maintenance areas. If you're in the middle of benchmarking and you realize that you do not have any certain pieces of information in front of you, you can always use default or temporary values over here on the right. However, to ensure the accuracy of your metrics, and if you're interested in applying for Energy Star certification, you'll have to go back and update those default values with actual information. You can also use the drop down, which I'm thinking, oh, it's up here, all the way at the very top of the screen. The add another type of use drop down to add additional use types if they are not already included in Portfolio Manager's definition of your primary property type. So like some of the examples we were looking at before, if your building is partly an office and partly a laboratory, you'll want to add whichever one you did not select initially so that both are covered. Oh, sorry. Yeah, and then at the bottom of this page, you'll just want to click add property once you've added all of these different details. So now you've created the property, you've entered the address, the property use details, and there is a profile created for it in Portfolio Manager. So this is the summary tab. You'll see there's no graph, there's no metrics. That's because we haven't added data yet. So that is the next step. We'll navigate to the energy tab to create some initial energy meters. Let's see. Yeah, so like I said, there's different charts on this page that are customizable that will populate with data once we enter that. You do need 12 full months of data to receive the Energy Star score column here. And you'll see up here, this property is not currently eligible for Energy Star certification because no data has been added yet. but this will populate after we go in and add meters and data. All right. So yeah, I just added this in here just in case there were any of you that had campuses that you're trying to benchmark. I know this is often a question about how to benchmark a campus. Campuses in Portfolio Manager are entered as a single parent property with multiple child buildings. This allows you to report on metrics at the campus level while still being able to track performance of the individual buildings that make up this campus. This assumes that you have the necessary building level energy, water, and waste materials data though. So for properties with multiple buildings, only a handful are eligible for an Energy Star score at the campus level, those being hotels, hospitals, K through 12 schools, multifamily housing, and senior care communities. And if you are benchmarking a campus, you will select more than one property back on that set up a property page, and you'll enter the number of buildings on your campus. Once you define the campus as the main property, there's a little bit of flexibility as to how you benchmark it. You can either benchmark the campus in aggregate, benchmark the individually metered buildings on the campus, or both, but just being sure that you are not double counting any meters if you do choose to benchmark both. All right, and now we will move on to entering energy data. So back in the property record, there are property level tabs. We'll be working in the energy tab to create energy meters and add some data in different methods. So on the energy tab, you'll see at the left, there is a meter summary. We do not have any meters yet, so that is blank. To add a meter, you'll click add a meter in the upper right-hand corner of this page and follow the prompts to enter energy meters and then consumption data. So on the getting started setting up meters page, you'll be prompted to identify all the sources of energy consumed at the property, as well as the number of meters for each fuel source. Make sure to include every fuel consumed. So in many buildings, this is just electricity and natural gas, but sometimes your building receives fuel oil, diesel. There's lots of options here. So we just ask that you make sure when you're filling out this page that you consider all fuel types consumed at your property. For electricity, for example, you will be asked to indicate whether the energy was purchased from the grid or generated on-site via solar or wind power. So there are capabilities in Portfolio Manager for benchmarking solar power and other renewable energy sources. So those are definitely newer to the tool, and there's lots of fun metrics being added. I think some even coming out this year, so you can be on the lookout for that. So on the About Your Meters page, you can click anywhere in the table to add data about your meters. To enter units, which is very important, select the accurate unit from the drop-down menu. So for this, you'll want to compare that with your utility bill to make sure that the units that you're representing in Portfolio Manager are the units that your usage is reported to you in. I say it's very important because if you enter the wrong unit, you might get a very skewed Energy Star score, either very low or very high. So just be sure that the units are correct. The date meter became active can be the date that the building was built. But sometimes, the building was built 50 years ago and you don't have 50 years of data. So in that case, we just suggest that the date the meter became active is the date of the oldest bill that you have for your building. Because we know it's not realistic to enter 50 years of utility data in here. And it's oftentimes not even accessible to the building owner. So yeah, it can be the first day of the first bill that you have, or even the first date of the 12-month period that you'll be benchmarking. The date the meter became inactive, you can typically leave that blank. You'll only need to enter a date there if you want to note that a meter has been decommissioned. If you do receive fuel and it's delivered in bulk, then you'll check the enter as delivery box at the right. And you can also add additional meters from this page. So if on the previous page you had selected you only had one electric meter, you can create an additional meter if you perhaps forgot one. So then you'll click create meters, and that will take you to the next page where we can begin adding data. So on this page, you'll see each meter that was created with a little drop down. All of the meters that you created will be presented on this page. So this allows you to add data to multiple meters at the same time without having to click back and forth. So to add data, there are three main ways that it can be entered to your property or to your entire portfolio. The most basic approach is to enter data manually, which can be tedious, but it is the most straightforward. You just enter the usage, enter the time period that it was used for 12 or sometimes 13 months for 1 year. Another way is to upload data using spreadsheet templates to enter one building or multiple buildings, use details about the building or buildings, and then meter consumption. So all of those different key points can be uploaded using spreadsheet uploads. I will say this is slightly a more challenging method just because the formatting in the spreadsheet does have to be pretty particular. But you'll note, I think maybe it was, oops, I haven't gotten to that slide yet. So on the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about that, but you can click this spreadsheet template link to download a template and then populate it there. So you have the correct formatting. And then the third way is to work with a third-party provider or your utility that can exchange data directly with Portfolio Manager via web services. So now we'll talk about entering consumption data. So you'll start by filling in this first field with the start date, the end date, and the usage for that time period. Cost is optional, but it can be helpful to monitor cost over time to just see, I'm paying a lot more than I was a year ago. So that's really for your benefit if you'd like to see if that's changed over time, but that is not required for earning any metrics in Portfolio Manager. So let's see. Yeah, so an estimation that is similar to entering a default value or checking a default value box on the property setup page. So you can use an estimation whenever you make an estimation. For example, if you haven't received your bill yet, but you want to estimate how your building might perform in the next month. But if the value you're entering comes directly from your utility bill, you do not need to check the estimation box, even though sometimes utility bills are marked this way when they contain small estimates based on how the utility read your meter. But that should really only be checked if this is an estimate that you're making. To generate accurate metrics, enter at least 12 consecutive months of data for all fuel types consumed in the building. So to do that, you'll click this add another entry box or link. It'll add another line here, and you'll populate 12 or sometimes 13 for a full year of data. And like I said before, another option is to use the spreadsheet upload link to upload consumption data, which is available here, the spreadsheet template. Once you download that, it's a pretty simple spreadsheet. There are only 5 columns. I believe it's the start date, the end date, the usage, and then the cost. I'm blanking on the last one. It might be whether or not if it's an estimation, but it looks pretty similar to this table here, just in an Excel format. And once you have filled in the necessary data, you just upload it right back here. So you'll click choose file and then click upload, and it'll populate this table. It is helpful. It saves a little bit of time, especially if you already have your data saved in an Excel spreadsheet. I will say if it's not already in Excel, you'll be typing into a spreadsheet, similarly to how you'd be typing here. So it's only a real time saver if you already have it saved that way, but that is an option if you prefer to upload data that way. And then once you have uploaded a full calendar year worth of data, you'll click Save Bills at the bottom. That will take you to the next page where you'll be prompted to state that the meters that you've created account for the total energy consumption for the building. So it's important for a portfolio manager to understand which meter should be applied to the total property energy consumption. Sometimes you have a meter that is not in use, or like I said, like it was an option on a previous page, you could state that a meter is inactive, so that one you wouldn't want to include for energy metrics either. So when you're done, you'll click Apply Selections, the bottom right. So now your meters are set up, and you will see a little green box at the top indicating that all of your energy meters have been created and data has been added. This page is really just a summary of the energy meters that are set up for the building. And then you can go back and access them at any time by clicking on the different meter names here. If you want to go back and add a bill or revise one. So it's all pretty simple and easy to access. So a little bit more about using spreadsheet uploads. To use spreadsheet uploads, you'll select upload and or update multiple properties. There's a couple different ways to get to this. So back on the meter page, there was that link at the bottom that I pointed out. You can also click on this at the side of the manage portfolio at the manage portfolio tab. There's a button that says upload and or update multiple properties. This is a little bit more complicated, but you can essentially upload data for multiple meters at once, or even multiple properties at once. So I'd like to say this is for portfolio manager experts. It's definitely can be a challenging method, but it is quite fast if you do have to populate data for multiple buildings. I won't spend too much time on this, but if you do have more questions, I'm happy to go into more detail about this method. And then finally, the third option for entering data is to utilize the services of Energy Star partners that are set up to exchange data directly with Portfolio Manager via web services. So this will likely be an energy service company or your utility. Web services provide the advantage of avoiding manual entry, so you won't have to go in and type in each usage value. The third-party service provider or utility does that for you automatically. To use web services, it's necessary to connect and share with your provider, which you can do from the sharing tab by selecting Set Up Web Services or Data Exchange. I believe the name of that button has changed very slightly, but it's still that middle button there. That's how you'll set up web services connection. That's discussed a little bit more in Portfolio Manager 201, which I won't go into today, but that is available to you on the Energy Star website. I'm happy to put a link in the chat after this Portfolio Manager demo. So in the Energy Star notifications page, there is also sometimes going to be a little notification that you can connect with your web services provider. This is location-based, so based on your zip code, Portfolio Manager may look at your property and say, this property is within the grounds of, Pepco, which is a Washington, D.C. utility. So in that case, Energy Star may give you a notification that web services is available to you. So if you do go that route on the notification tab, this is what the notification will look like. So this one is based on Rocky Mountain Power, which I believe is in Colorado. But it just states that your utility might be able to send data directly to you. There's a link to click for more information and a link to connect with your utility to set up this process. All right, and now we will talk a little bit about generating reports and responding to data requests. So this is an overview of the reporting tab. You'll see up top there is a section for charts and graphs. There's different Energy Star performance documents, and then at the bottom there are Energy Star reports, and there's also a possibility to create custom reports or custom templates. So today we'll do a quick overview of these different reporting options. So performance documents, these reflect details and performance about the individual properties that you have entered. So there's 6 to choose from. These are all kind of pre-populated, but useful documents to see in a quick image of how your property performs. So to use one of these, you'll just click on the one that you'd like to generate and follow additional prompts to select which properties to include in the report, and it will download in a PDF format. So the charts and graphs feature is also a predefined collection of metrics for quick at-a-glance results for your entire portfolio. So you can generate these charts by selecting the name of the chart or its icon. There are 9 to choose from. So there's source EUI, site EUI, Energy Star score, weather normalized source EUI, weather normalized site EUI. I don't think I need to read the whole list, I'm realizing, but there are quite a few for you to choose from if you would like to create a more targeted report. It's an automated process and it's very simple. Towards the bottom of the reporting tab, you'll see a set of 9 standard reports. These reports contain key metrics and information that you can use to easily assess your portfolio's performance and progress across a variety of parameters. To generate any of these reports, you'll go to the action dropdown and select, I want to generate a new report. So you'll be asked to select the time frame for this report as well as the properties to include. But once you select that, I think it might take a couple minutes and then you'll see a green bar at the top of the page indicating that your report is ready. And that can be downloaded into Excel. I think there's a couple different other file types as well. There's also a separate tab titled My Custom Reports, which I think was on this slide. Yeah. So the My Custom Reports tab, you can generate custom reports and data requests. This is mainly covered in Portfolio Manager 301, so that too we will not go over today, but I can send a link to that training if you're interested. And then finally, I don't know that I have a full slide on this, but the data requests from others tab is where you will see a data request for your specific properties, using the link that I think we went through earlier today. So you'll click that link and it will take you to Portfolio Manager. You'll see it appear under the data requests from others tab, and then you'll go through the steps that we went through before. I think that brings me to the end of my training. So here's just a slide of some extra help. We have lots of FAQs and different trainings on the Energy Star site. There are almost weekly expert Q&A sessions led by Energy Star staff. There's also pre-recorded trainings, or just if you want to just download the slides, those are available too. So there's lots of resources available to you if you do have any questions. Yeah, thank you. And then of course you can also reach out to me if you have any specific questions as well. All right.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Charlotte. That was great. I have been in Portfolio Manager every day for a year and a half, and I still learned some new things. So thanks for that.
Me as well. Me too. Always learning new things in there.
Okay, I'm going to reshare my screen. Let's see. Do you see the ESPM demo slides? Sweet. Okay, I am going to speed through so that we can get to Sophia's presentation with white energy rebates. So once you've completed benchmarking successfully, you've completed everything that Charlotte kind of nicely detailed. The scores that you receive for your building will be displayed on the city and county's Resilient Oahu website. So this map here is a screenshot from the website. All of the green buildings are buildings who have submitted building data, and we are publishing building data that has been vetted and approved for publishing. So if you go to buildings who have their data published, you'll see their energy use intensity as well as their water use intensity. So the goal of the transparency map is to kind of just unlock the ability for buildings to see how other similar types of buildings function and what their scores are. So you can kind of just see like, oh, my multifamily building, I have a UI of X and my neighboring building of a similar type is Y. You know, you can kind of learn reasons why your score might be higher or lower. And it kind of unlocks a learning opportunity to implement energy efficiency measures. So in addition to being featured on the transparency map, a building that completes their benchmarking report and follows up on any errors that are outlined from their report, they'll receive a scorecard. So the scorecard will very specifically be comparing you to buildings of a similar type. So Sophia will go into a couple more examples of the scorecards, but a multifamily building will be compared with a multifamily building. We're also looking at age of buildings. So like a building from 2022 will not be compared with a building from 1960. So you'll be able to see your building's average, the overall use type average, and just kind of how your building is performing similar to others of a similar type. And then same thing here with your water use intensity. And as Charlotte mentioned, there are just tons of resources available from the EPA and the ESPM team, live trainings, webinars that are recorded, short demo videos if you just need to learn something like super quick, and then just tons of slides and how-to guides so you can kind of go in and get help that you need to complete your benchmarking report. And last slide here from me, the city also has several resources on our website. We have several guides. We also have recorded trainings, and any specific questions you have about your building, you can contact us and we can schedule a call, a virtual meeting, or we can just chat through email. But our contact here is bbb@energy.honolulu.gov. So we have several people overseeing this email, so we'll aim to get back to you within 1 to 3 days with any specific questions you have. Last but not least, if you are looking to maybe seek out someone to complete the benchmarking services for you, or you're looking to work with someone, you can find a contractor who offers benchmarking services. Both Hawaii Energy and Energy Star publish certified contractors that can help you with benchmarking. So Hawaii Energy's website, you would go to their Clean Energy Ally webpage, search for the business on Oahu, specifically for utility benchmarking. There's a list of contractors that pop up, local contractors. Energy Star also has several nationwide recognized contractors that could also be super helpful for benchmarking. So again, these are additional services that maybe come at a cost to support benchmarking. But going back to the city's website, we have several free resources for you. Awesome. Well, with that, Sophia from Hawaii Energy is here. She's going to offer us tips and tricks to saving energy for your building. How can you get a better Energy Star score? How can you lower your energy use intensity? Hawaii Energy is also offering support and help for review of your scorecards. So with that, I will let her take it away and jump into her slides. Thanks, Sophia.
Thank you, Marissa. Can you guys see and hear me okay? Yeah. All right. Awesome. So, as mentioned previously, my name's Sophia, and I'm an energy advisor with Hawaii Energy. And today we're going to talk about, next steps after benchmarking. Can I get like a show of hands or just a quick comment in the chat if you have worked with Hawaii Energy either in the past or are currently? I do see some names I recognize, so I just wanted to get a little feel for how many of you are familiar with us. And I'll just continue on here as those come in. So if you're not familiar with Hawaii Energy, our primary mission is to help residents, families, and businesses make smarter energy choices to reduce energy consumption and save money. We have a goal to pursue 100% clean energy for our future keiki, and we offer incentives and rebates to help move that needle towards energy efficiency. And if you don't know already, half of our electricity on our grid is used in our commercial sector, our commercial buildings, which is why we incentivize so much the commercial sector, and to date have awarded $7.8 million for businesses to upgrade towards more energy efficiency appliances and make those efforts. So that has translated to $8.3 million in electricity bill savings over the first year. And we're excited to watch that number grow. So now that you have benchmarked, you've done all the hard work, the heavy lifting of inputting your electricity and your water use data. What do we do next? Well, we want to create an action plan. You want to understand where it is your business or your buildings you want to go. So it's best to engage with not only your facilities managers, but your finance department and other non-technical staff, software development, and try to create a plan forward and be able to understand what the priorities are within that plan. So that's where we come in. You just contact us. As soon as you get your scorecard, contact us. We want to be able to help you walk you through that and make an effort to help you identify certain savings. There's a couple different ways we can do this. We can either assist you through a in-person or on-site or virtual walkthrough. That's just where an advisor like myself and an engineer would come out to your facility. We'd walk around the property with you and look at lighting, talk to you about your occupancy behaviors, check out your facilities, mechanical rooms, and see if we can identify anything just, on a quick visual. Also learn about the facility and its functionality. So we could either do that, or you could participate in ASHRAE Level 2 audit or retro commissioning. And that is a more high level, but much more detailed reporting of the health of your building. It's essentially like going to the building doctors. And at that point, we can identify some energy conservation measures and really help you identify the project costs of those measures, and then be able to incentivize them, provide you incentives for those specific projects that you'd like to do. And I will dive into that a little deeper here after reviewing the scorecards. So as Marissa and Charlotte touched on, the scorecards, we've got our site energy use intensity here. And then on the right, the water use intensity. I'm going to stick with the energy side. And I've got two examples here. Both are large commercial retail stores that I'm currently working with. We've got our time frame from January to December of calendar year 2022. So this was the initial year, the first year, right, of implementing the data. And this building was built in 2011. It's got a GFA, gross floor area, of 40,400 square feet. And they were able to determine that the I'm sorry, the energy use intensity was 60.7, and which is a little high, but at the same time, it is average for a building of this type. So, if they were able to implement like a 15% performance increase throughout their energy use, that could provide them with estimated savings of $35,000. And we're here to help facilitate that 15% push. And moving on to the other example, we've got another commercial retail store built in 2009, slightly larger GFA, 160,000 plus, same year. And this has a pretty high use type average, or I'm sorry, pretty high like EUI, but the use type average is even higher. So just because it's in the red doesn't mean it's bad. It's just that these are super large buildings and their energy usage is really intense. But what's very exciting is that we are working with both of them currently. They have both done huge LED lighting retrofit projects in the last like 6 months. And I'm very eager to see how their scorecards will come out this following reporting calendar year. I think that will be super exciting. So in order to know where you want to go, you have to know where you're at. And so as I kind of mentioned earlier with the walkthroughs that we do, if you don't want to do that, we could do a self-led treasure hunt, and you can find those materials, as Marissa mentioned, on the Energy Star website under the trainings. But it's a really fun way to not only team build, but to get to know the inner workings of your facility and be able to like creatively work together with your team to save money. So if you want help with that, we are more than happy to help facilitate. Some easy wins, as we like to call them, or low-hanging fruit is looking at the lighting, seeing if you have any old fluorescents, upgrading to LED if possible, or adding controls in, and retro commissioning. And if you're not familiar with the word retro commissioning, that is essentially just a process of how building equipment and systems operate with each other, and the process of improving that. So retro commissioning is just a great tool to use at the beginning, so you know how everything is functioning together and at what capacity. So again, yeah, some key tips just in the meantime before you're able to do those retro commissionings or the walkthroughs with us or the treasure hunts is just to turn off all equipment when it's not in use. Like the best way to conserve energy is to not use it. And some common energy savings opportunities for these 4 primary usages are going to be for your ACs. We've got smart thermostats, and we can do chiller retrofits, like different types of pumps, VRF ACs. That's just a variable refrigerant flow, and it is used in AC and heating measures, energy management control systems. And for lighting, occupancy sensors are great, learning how to better improve it with your occupancy schedules, obviously upgrading to LED, looking at your plug loads. So smart power strips are always really great. Really would be surprised at how much little appliances can suck up energy. And refrigeration. So anything with like an Energy Star seal of approval are going to have the highest efficiency types of motors in them and like condensers. So we have a couple options there. And then, yeah, as I mentioned before, these are the tools for identifying savings. We got ASHRAE level 2 and level 3 audits. These are the incentives we can provide. And then this is what they're capped at. For retro commissioning, this is the incentive. We can provide 20 cents per square foot. Oop. And it's capped at 30,000. We just did a project here that we were able to provide them like $29,000, and that's really great when the project's, 55,000, cuts it in half. So super economical for any, property manager to consider this option. Here are all of the services that we offer when looking at incentives. Appliances, electronics, we've got HVAC, we've got EV charging stations, lighting, commercial kitchen equipment. We do sub-metering. Oh, I see a hand up. Chester.
How about power conditioners? I just installed $55,000 worth of power conditioners in one of my dual high rises.
Wow, that's awesome.
Well,
That could be a custom project that we have right here. So if you would like to send us information on that project, whether that be, you said you finished it, right?
yeah, we've already completed it.
Okay.
We
If you
just
have the
completed it.
final invoice and the equipment specs, we could run some energy savings calculation models. And if it meets our eligibility requirements, it's something we could pursue.
Dan has a quick comment in the chat. He mentions
Yeah.
power conditioners do not provide energy efficiency. However, they can help correct power factor. So the rebates are mostly for energy saving projects. So if you're saving energy, Hawaii Energy can provide a rebate for it. But
well, the power conditioners do clean up the power, which in the end results in energy savings. So at least that's been my experience over the last 10 years in this business. This is the second building I've done it to. And so it saves on hard costs for motors, lighting. Of course, with the LED upgrades, that's gone a long way to solve that problem too. But
yeah, maybe
Go ahead.
Dan can provide some more help, or
Yeah,
we can get a
I'm curious.
Hawaii Energy email to follow up there.
I'm pretty curious. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Chester. I would love to follow up with you on that. And thank you so much, Dan, for providing more clarification there. So yeah, as you can see, we have about like 15 options here for different types of services that we could incentivize. But if you ever have a question on a particular project, please feel free to reach out to us. The top 5 EUI reduction measures that we have seen are going to be lighting. Like I said, it's an easy win. HVAC is coming in hot with second place. Controls, water heating, pumps, and motors. So these are the most popular because of their return on investments. And then for average savings per opportunity, so most effective, you're going to have controls, lighting, water heating, pumps and motors, and HVAC. So this is what we would want to understand, like what is the priority for your building and what would give you the best return on your investment, looking at your big picture, right? So how can we get you to where you want to go by zooming in on these pieces and helping strategically work on these projects throughout, a timeline and see a good return on your investment so your energy and electricity costs don't skyrocket. We want to help you mitigate those costs, which I think is a really awesome aspect of the Better Buildings benchmarking program, is that, once you kind of do this, for a couple years, it kind of gets exciting to see how much not only you save in energy wise, but how much you're saving in costs. And you can kind of like gamify it. So once you know what you want to do and you have reached out to us about a project, we definitely want to know what the equipment specs are going to be, so we can give you the green light on if it's eligible for one of our incentives. Once we give you the green light, you are good to go to install the equipment. If we find out that it's not qualified, but you haven't purchased the equipment, we can direct you towards something that would qualify or assist with that. So you can get that rebate. Once you have installed the equipment and the project is complete, we want to just get the full application package together, which includes the commercial incentive application, the W-9 of the business, the proposal and final invoice, the spec sheets, and then the incentive worksheet. And then once that's done, you just submit it to us and we'll be helping you along the way. But after everything is submitted, a check should be sent to the customer or whoever is in that rebate payee form within 6 to 8 weeks. So it's a pretty awesome system, if you ask me. And here are some case studies. We've had a hotel retro commissioning project that adjusted a chilled water and condenser water supply temperature set points. It cost $56,000. Our Hawaii Energy incentive was $27,000. So it only cost them $29,000 and gave a payback of 1.5 years. So by just adjusting some set points by doing that retro commissioning, they were able to see huge savings. And they're building health overall. So that was very exciting to see. And then another one was a condominium tenant sub-metering. So they put in 588 sub-metering units and began billing the tenants with their actual usage. Oh, Chester, we got another question.
Actually, you've just given me two, so this may be more to Dan.
Okay.
This building I was talking about with the power conditioners, we're actually in the process of replacing the chiller, $500,000 chiller. So when we're complete with that project, if we submit all that documentation, is there possible rebates involved with that?
Possibly. Oh yeah, I'm going to let Dan answer that.
Sorry, for the power conditioning equipment, no, but for replacing that chiller and any controls that you're doing on it,
Yeah.
yes. For the controls, we might have already passed the limit for incentivizing that because those require measurements before the project has started. But if you haven't started the project, there's an opportunity still to get an incentive for the controls. But regardless, you should be able to get rebates for the chiller, assuming it's better than minimum code. And so if you have the submittals for that, we'd love to take a look at that and see. That one should qualify.
Okay, I'll reach out. And then the second question I have is on the sub-metering. I have 2 properties right now that use sub-metering and their systems are really outdated. And so we're actually working through proposals from vendors to replace and upgrade all this stuff. So would there still be any rebates possible there?
We have dealt with some of those issues in the past where sites have been dealing with major obsolescence and failures. So yeah, reach out to us and we can look at your case and see if that one can be eligible. Because we do really want to keep people in the business of sub-metering and controlling their use.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we can look at it for you.
Thank you so much, Chester. I'm sensing a nice partnership maybe with Hawaii Energy in your future. Okay, so to continue, for this case study, it was 588 units that were being sub-metered through a third-party vendor, and it was a costly project, $662,000. We were able to incentivize 88,000 of that. So that provided a payback period of 7.3 years, and it resulted over 12% energy use reduction in the building. So that was really great. That's a big undertaking, and for us to be able to offer close to 100,000 on that off the project is, I think, a great part of what we do here at Hawaii Energy. So at this point, I'm going to leave it open to questions and discussions, and also just say if you would like us to, conduct a walkthrough with you at your facility, please drop your contact info into the chat and we will reach out to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Sophia. What
Thank
is
you,
the
Marissa.
what is the best way for people to contact Hawaii Energy?
Oh, sorry. You can always visit our website. And we have all of our advisors for each sector listed in our team section. And you can also check out all of the rebates that we have. I will upload my email into the chat right here as well. And Dan, if you could upload yours, maybe Nina, if you're on as well. Thank you.
Nice. And for everyone on the call, you will receive a copy of Sophia's slides. So if you want to review any of those case studies in more detail, really look at how big that incentive was that some of the buildings received, we'll be forwarding a copy of the city slides, Charlotte's Energy Star slides, and then my slides as well for more review. So with that, we can kind of just, I know we're over time here a little bit, but thanks everyone for bearing with us. I know we've had some questions throughout the presentation, but if there's any kind of final questions, feel free to ask now. And if there's no burning questions, in the follow-up email from this presentation, you'll have my contact information and then Sophia's and other team members at Hawaii Energy as well. So any questions that come to mind later, you can reach out to us. So maybe with that, I will thank everyone for their time. Charlotte, thank you for being on today, representing the ESPM team. And Sophia, thanks so much for your time too. Really appreciate everyone's group effort to make the benchmarking program a success. So thanks everyone. Have a great rest of your week. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.